Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, hello, my name is Caitlin Elliott, and if you don't know, I cover true crime cases on Tuesdays and Fridays with my more vintage cases being posted on Fridays. So in my last video, we actually talked about the case of Melissa Brannon, and for this case, we're going to be talking about another school shooting, which I haven't covered a school shooting since the one of Columbine, and today we're going to be talking about the Sandy Hook shooting. Have you guys ever heard about this one? I actually remember being in about the 10th grade, so I was about 15 years old when this happened, and I remember just being really confused about what was going on, and it was just so sad and heartbreaking. So this incident took place in 2012, and it was at an elementary school named Sandy Hook in Newtown, Connecticut. So this school, Sandy Hook, was a elementary school for grades kindergarten through 5th grade. I shouldn't say was because it's still an active school. So the school is located in a small town in Connecticut called Newtown, and it was only 60 miles away from New York City. It said that in the town of Newtown, Connecticut, that there was little to no crime and nothing ever really happened and occurred there. So on December 14th of 2012, a lone gunman entered the elementary school and killed 20 children and 6 staff members before killing himself. Adam Peter Lanza, he was born on April 22nd of 1992 in Exeter, New Hampshire. He was the son of Peter Lanza and Nancy Lanza, the latter of whom Adam was said to have been living with whenever he was living in Sandy Hook, Connecticut. So it said that he only lived about 5 miles away from the elementary school, so he knew it pretty well. And it's also said that he had easy access to guns through his mother, who was said to have been a pretty severe gun enthusiast. So Nancy, she just loved guns. She had all types of guns in her home. They were able to be easy access to her children, and she ended up teaching her children how to shoot guns by the time that they were old enough to hold them. So she would often take her 2 sons, including Adam, to a shooting range and teach them how to properly aim and fire. So Adam had previously attended Sandy Hook Elementary School as a child for 4.5 years before graduating and starting Newtown Middle School. He had numerous intense anxiety attacks while he was at the middle school due to the classroom changes because he wasn't used to it since he just came from elementary school. So Adam was said to have such severe anxiety attacks from this stuff that he would end up having to be homeschooled, and he was sent to an emergency room because of how severe the panic attacks were. At age 14, he began attending the Newtown High School in 2007, he was said to have been a very intelligent, like highly intelligent individual, and he had amazing grades back then. So due to his intense panic attacks that he had, Adam was unfortunately had to drop out of high school at the age of 16, and he had to pick up his GED afterwards. There was a history of developmental and mental health problems with Adam Lanza. Honestly, what he had going on with him mentally should have been enough to just ring some alarm bells in people's heads, like, oh my god, there's something wrong with this guy. But they didn't. Adam started showing some pretty severe developmental issues around the age of 3, and it said that he had some pretty severe issues with sensory, socialization, and had repetitive-like behaviors. I'm sure we can all infer what type of mental disorder that has that. We know I had talked about this previously. Autism is one of those mental disorders that are said to have all of this. So it's most commonly found with people who have autism. At age 13, Adam was said to have been diagnosed with Asperger Syndrome, which is a lighter version of autism. And then when he was 14 years old, just a year later, he was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder, aka OCD. So, in a 2013 interview about Adam, Peter Lanza, his father, claimed that his son may have also had undiagnosed schizophrenia. Peter felt like he and other family members may have actually missed the true signs of Adam's schizophrenia, and they almost took his weird and bizarre behaviors for his autism, which I don't understand how that could have been done. Like, how do you... It's like comparing apples to oranges. However, that does not mean that all people who have autism are said to have been extremely violent people. So Adam Lanza, he was said to have been fascinated by the Columbine shooting, which I did cover that in another video, the Virginia Tech shooting, and the Chicago University shooting that happened in 2008. He had found these newspaper clippings from God knows where about the shootings, and he printed them out and started hanging them up around his room for decoration. After Adam's death, his room was investigated by authorities, and they ended up actually finding these newspaper clippings. In November of 2014, an article stated that Adam Lanza might have had anorexia nervosa, which is commonly known as anorexia, because he was said to have been 6 feet tall and only 112 pounds. That's about as much as I weigh, and I'm like 5'3". Scientists believe that if in fact Adam did have anorexia, it's possible that he did starve himself to the point where he started having pretty severe brain damage. So this could have also altered, because of the brain damage, could have altered his mind and started to drive him towards psychosis, which caused him to do what he did. On the morning of December 14th of 2012, 6-year-old Jessie Lewis, he was heading for school like any other weekday, and it said that he just went into his car with his mother, who was supposed to be dropping him off, and he ended up writing "I love you" on the car window with a heart, and just went off inside school like it was just a normal day. So he was very proud of his artwork that day. He was just kept talking about over and over again how beautiful it really was. So his mother decided to get out of the car and take a picture of his artwork and, maybe print it out on Shutterfly for him to hang up in his home. Jessie was said to have been a very fun and outgoing yet silly child. He had a very fun personality. He was constantly seen wearing some fake costume teeth, like the vampire teeth, and he would wear it all the time in school and try to smile and make other students laugh. Scarlett Lewis, who was Jessie's mother, hugged him tightly and told him to have a great day at school. So he left to go to school with his dad that day, and he was just super excited because Christmas was said to have been coming up. That morning, hundreds of parents sent their children to Sandy Hook Elementary School in Newtown, Connecticut. It was just a normal day for the students and staff, as Christmas was just around the corner and everyone was just super excited. A woman named Russo was called in to help for a teacher that had called out sick, and she was supposed to be covering for their shift. So she arrived at the school, and her father also was said to have been working there, but he had stayed home because he wasn't feeling good. Another parent drops off his child at school, and a few hours later, a man named Rob, who was the father of a student named Daniel, he was working at the fire station at his job when suddenly he received a call about a shooting in a school in Newtown, Connecticut on the radio. At first, Rob wasn't extremely worried for his son, as he was told to send... They were just told to send everybody to the elementary school. They were just like, okay, maybe it's nothing maybe it's like a joke or nothing severe. No one really thought anything of it at the time. So Andrew Russo, who was Lauren's brother, saw the shooting on the news, and at first he assumed his sister was just absolutely fine and that he shouldn't worry. Jessie's mother claimed to have assumed that the shooter was just some weird, jealous boyfriend who went into the school and just shot a teacher because she overheard that a teacher had been shot in the foot. So she decided to drive over to the school and just pick up her son Jesse and figure out what was going on. And as she was entering the school, she started hearing gunshots and people screaming. So she hid under a desk in the school for safety. Rob informed Scarlett that he was going to be home and he was going to go over to the Sandy Hook Elementary School before going home just to see what was going on. And he told Scarlett that She just needed to protect herself and to stay hidden. So she was worried that she was going to die, and she kept telling Rob to take care of the kids if she didn't make it. Scarlett recalled how she felt how she felt a very intense need to just find her son Jesse and save him. So when she had left to go to the school, she was just in such a frantic and upset state that she had said to have had to choose between saving Jesse and her other children, and she left her young children by themselves at their home while she ran over to go and save Jesse. Daniel, who was a survivor of the shooting, he stated that during the attack, the speaker in the principal's office was turned on to tell the students to run for cover because the principal had, sent a message out. So as this principal was saying to run for cover, multiple gunshots were heard over the intercom, and the woman named Dawn, the principal, was just completely silent after that. So he was quoted saying that he heard the horrific sounds of people dying, and this, just really upset him, and he heard the blood-curdling screams of children in pain. The parents of the students at Sandy Hook Elementary School were instructed to travel to the local fire station where their children were said to have been waiting for them. When parents did, in fact, arrive at the firehouse, the facility just erupted into complete and utter chaos. So no one really knew whether or not their kids were alive at this point. No one knew what was really going on. No one knew how many kids or teachers had been injured or killed. So everyone was just hysterical at this point. Jesse's mother, Scarlett, she was said to watch all these parents happily reunite with their children, and she was still waiting for her son to show up. So after a while, she still hadn't found her son Jesse, but she isn't quite worried yet because she just assumed that he had been hiding still in one of the classrooms, thinking that the shooter was still there. After the hours began to tick by with no word, Lauren Russo's brother stood outside of the school waiting for his sister to come out. He isn't worried, as he believed that Lauren was just talking to the parents at the time, saying, oh, this is what happened, everything's okay. So he was just waiting for her to come out. So Jesse's mother, named Scarlett, was also looking for her loved one as she was trying to ask officials in charge of what was going on. When she does find them, she asks if they had seen her son Jessie Lewis, which I'm pretty sure no one knows who Jessie Lewis is at this point. After a horde of children exit the school, the police tried to stop anybody else from entering inside. The police had assumed that maybe the person responsible had been, is still inside shooting, and there was possibly more children or other individuals that were hurt and lying inside. And they just wanted to make sure the scene was safe before entering. Jesse's mother tried to enter the school just to see what was going on and try to save her son, but no one would let her, and this caused her to get extremely frustrated, and she kept demanding to find her son and go inside to get him. So at this point, she was being calmed down by the authorities, and she just assumed at this point that he was still hiding and that they were going to find him. Around 3 p.m. that afternoon, police exit Sandy Hook Elementary School to inform the parents that things just really weren't looking good inside. Parents are beginning to get angry, and they want to know what in the world is going on and why their kids still aren't outside. There was a doctor that ended up coming up to the parents, and this doctor was said to have been one that was going and looking inside to see if there was any casualties. And this doctor went up to Jesse's parents and said, there's no easy way to tell you this, but your son is dead. Exactly like that. I had watched a couple of interviews, I watched a couple of documentaries, and literally she said that they said it exactly like that. It was just, I can't even imagine how awful she must have felt. She must have felt sick to her stomach. My thoughts and prayers are still with her and all the families going through this. Oh my God. And even 10 years later almost, it just still has to be so difficult to go through. Lauren's brother was said to have had to work the night of the Sandy Hook massacre, and there was still no word from Lauren. He really had hope and faith that she was still alive and everything was okay, and she was just going to wait and text him, let them know what was going on. So he frantically started texting her and calling her, saying, hey, why don't you text and call our parents, let them know that you're okay, but this ended up with no response. So by 8 p.m. that evening, there was still no word from Lauren herself, and everyone in her family was still worried, and they were starting to get even more worried and frantic. So around 1 o'clock in the morning on December 15th of 2012, there was a knock on the front door of Lauren's parents' home. Her father walked down the steps and opened the front door, revealing a police officer. And her brothers began to rush into the kitchen to hear about what was going on, and this was when they tell Lauren's brothers and her father that Lauren had unfortunately passed away during the shootings. She was the only daughter of the family, and this just makes it even more hard and gut-wrenchingly painful for the families. I can't even imagine, oh my god. On December 14th of 2012, Adam had first entered classroom 8 that day, where Lauren Russo was working as a substitute teacher. So she had herded all of her children that she had at the time into the back of the room, and as she was going to go and lock the classroom door, Lanza just walks into the room, pushes it open and bursts in. He shot Lauren right where she stood, and as he was making his way through the classroom, he starts firing even more. Most of the teachers and children were hiding in the bathroom, and once Adam located them, he opened fire, and in that single classroom, he had slaughtered 15 children and 2 teachers, including Lauren and a special education teacher named Rachel Diavino. When the authorities entered the room, much later once they arrived to the scene, they discovered the bodies, and they were just horrified at all these deceased children in the bathroom. But as they were looking through the bodies, they found a terrified 6-year-old girl who was the only survivor. In young Jessie's classroom, the children had watched the gunman enter and shoot their beloved teacher, 27-year-old Victoria Soto. And as she was shot, she died instantly. He decided that he and all of his young friends needed to get the hell out of Dodge and go to safety as fast as they can. So even though Jessie was only 6 years old, he started ushering his friends and everyone to go and hide from the shooter as fast as possible. Adam pushed his way into the classroom where he and Jessie were said to have locked eyes just before he shot Jessie in the head, killing him instantly. After his death, Adam, his gun starts to get jammed, and he realizes he is out of bullets. So as he reaches into his bag to pull out more bullets, everyone takes this as a chance to escape. There was a student named Daniel who had been at Sandy Hook that fateful day, and he claimed to reporters that he had never ever witnessed anything more terrifying in his life. He told the reporters that it was extremely difficult for the children and the employees to accept that what had truly happened. No one really wanted to, accept that there was someone who came into their school. There was a man who had shot all their friends, all their teachers, just their principal, for God's sakes. And these children had heard over on the intercom their own principal pass away. That is just... oh my god, that just... the whole situation it's horrible. So for the survivors of the Sandy Hook Massacre, it was difficult to go back to school, as most of the children were struggling from PTSD and were terrified to go back to school because they were afraid there was going to be another mass murder. Daniel's mother told reporters that she felt responsible for him having PTSD, as she was the one that made him go to school. And she felt like she failed as a mother because she wasn't able to protect her son from this tragedy, which, oh my god, I can't even imagine that. Unfortunately, and most heartbreaking of all when it comes to the Sandy Hook killings, was that a majority of the victims were children. I believe there was 20 children that were killed. When the country started hearing about the school shooting, which I remember being in the middle of school and hearing about it, we were just, furious. We were so upset this had happened because someone had gone into an elementary school with a bunch of little 6 and 7-year-olds and killed them. School is supposed to be considered a place of safety, of learning, and unfortunately they weren't able to feel safe at their schools, and it failed them. The families of the victims were said to have been absolutely devastated that their children were never coming home alive. There was people outside of the school just getting sick to their stomachs, screaming and crying on their knees, just so devastated about what had happened. Like, oh my god, I can't even imagine. That has to be like the worst pain in your life. A year after the slayings, the families tried to do what they could to move forward. No one could really understand why their loved ones were senselessly murdered, or why Adam Lanza felt the need to get a gun, kill his mother, and entered an elementary school. But unfortunately, we will never find out why Adam Lanza did what he did, because after he killed the 20 children and the 6 adults, he put the gun to his head and killed himself. And get this. So before he went into the Sandy Hook Elementary School to go and do what he did, he shot his own mother and killed her before he went out and did that. Like, oh my god, what kind of a... Get myself all worked up again. Oh. So one long year after the shooting, a social worker arrived at Jessie's mother's home to tell her, as time goes on, the pain will never get better. And honestly, this is one of the most messed up things you could ever say to a grieving mother. That, oh, I know time's gone on, but it'll never get easier. It'll never get better. Like, that's just so messed up to say. Scarlett stopped the social worker right then and there in the middle of her sentence and said that she needed to stop talking and told her to never say that. After Jessie's death, Scarlett, she was said to have been struggling with having to clean Jessie's room. She was just really upset about this. And she had to clean it out, and then put all of his stuff in a box and put it downstairs. And this just took a really big toll on her. She couldn't even bring herself to throw out Jessie's old Halloween candy, decided to keep it in his room as a memorial. After Sandy Hook, most people in the United States hoped that this would be a turning point. President Obama put forward 2 brand new bills that were gun laws to prevent more mass shootings, and almost 10 years later, it said that neither of these laws were passed. Lauren's brothers arrived at the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. for a service that was dedicated to all the victims of gun violence, and it was very frustrating to the world how gun violence and mass murders are still occurring to this day. It just didn't make any sense. Lauren is described by her family as a very loving and caring woman who wasn't afraid to hug her brothers in public or put her whole heart into her career, which was being a teacher, and she adored her job. She loved working with kids, and she was great with them. After a while, there was actually a rumor that was spread around the country, around the town, that Sandy Hook was staged. Yeah, that's right. There was people who said that Sandy Hook was staged, that there was never a shooting, Adam Lanza wasn't a real person. Yeah. And then they said that all the people that were killed are still alive, and that they were all crisis actors. And this was done to promote gun violence and talk about restricting the amendments or whatever. Like, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So, there was a call made into the Newtown, Connecticut Fire Department that was said to have been by an anonymous caller. And this was only 3 weeks after the deadly shooting. This caller claimed that the whole thing about Sandy Hook was a hoax, and that all the students or teachers who were affected or killed were crisis actors. Like, honestly, that has to be one of the sickest and most awful things I've ever heard of in my entire life. The officer who had answered the phone was absolutely stunned beyond belief. Like, he was sitting there like, what the fuck? He was just really confused, and he had no idea what the caller was talking about. Since the fire department was one of the first people on the scene, they knew what they were talking about. They knew about the shooting. Daniel's parents showed up on the Katie Couric show talking about the shooting and what his mother had seen on Facebook. She had been scrolling through the comments about the shooting, and she saw a lot of them saying that the shooting was fake, and even going so far as to state that Adam Lanza wasn't even a real person. The same conspiracy theorist, when they found out was real, said that, oh, well, no one could have been killed. Like, that is just mad disrespectful. I'm sorry, that's just the most disrespectful thing I've ever heard of in my life. During the weeks after the shooting, there was a different anonymous caller who was said to have called the fire department and threatened to shoot up Sandy Hook again to finish the job. Like, oh my God. So, obviously, the fire department, they traced the phone number and ended up finding who this caller was and arrested them and charged them with conspiracy for murder. Jessie's mother, named Scarlett, wrote a book describing about her experience through Sandy Hook, what exactly happened with her son, and this was done to bring awareness about mass shootings and help make the world a better place. His older brother was said to have even started selling bracelets to help raise money for Rwanda's genocide situation, which was a big thing back in 2012. I don't know if you knew that or not. Jesse's family also traveled to prisons to speak about their new foundation that they had created in his honor and in his name to criminals in order to build a awareness about school shootings. Just bring out why it happens so often, why people who have severe mental disorders need to be evaluated, need to have stricter gun laws so that people who do have severe psychosis cannot buy them. So, despite all of that, Scarlett did say that if there was really strict gun laws, it wouldn't, like, we would still have that issue because we would still have the fear associated with those guns. It wouldn't make a difference. The parents of the children involved in Sandy Hook believe the tragedy occurred because it's just too easy for people to access guns. I mean, literally all you have to do is just show your ID, prove that you're over 18 or 21 or whatever the age is, and you sign some papers, pay for it, and there you go. They wanted to see if there was a possibility for future people who were going to buy guns to go through a psych evaluation before buying them. Adam Lanza, he was an extremely mentally ill man who should not have had access to those guns, despite his mother having them all throughout the house. And this just frustrated a lot of people, especially when it found out after his death, when they had done a brain scan to see if there was any abnormalities, and they noticed that he had schizophrenia. I mean, really. So there is now a memorial at Sandy Hook Elementary School to remember those who were murdered on that tragic day, and I'm going to be listing the names of all the people who were murdered and their ages as well, just so you guys can connect with them a little bit more. Jessica Ricos, age 6. Olivia Engel, age 6. Avielle Richmond, age 6. Jessie Lewis, age 6. Grace Audrey McDonald, age 7. Noah Posner, age 6. Anna Marquez Green, age 6. Emily Parker, age 6. Charlotte Bacon, age 6. Catherine Hubbard, age 6. Josephine Gay, age 7. Daniel Barden, age 7. This was not to be confused with the interviewed Daniel. This is a different Daniel. Obviously, the one that named Daniel that they interviewed was alive at this point. Caroline Praviti, age 6. Allison Wyatt, age 6, who is known to her family and her peers as Allie. Victoria Soto, age 27. Lauren Russo, age 30. Dawn Hawkspring, age 47, the principal. Mary Sherlock, age 56, Rachel Davino, age 29. And the final victim, Anne Marie Murphy, age 52. I just want us all to pray for the victims and the families of the victims, even though it's been all these years later, because they deserve our love and our attention, and they just need to know that we are there to support them. So I seriously hope that all these families that have lost their loved ones in this tragedy are able to move on, and I hope that time will help heal their wounds, even if it's not fast, but over time it helps. I lost a friend to suicide, and I can tell you right now that over time it does help. That's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day. And don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so that you never miss a video. And what do you guys think about this case? Do you think that Adam Lanza should have been evaluated from the start? Do you think it's messed up that his mother had all those guns in her house and possibly, they knew that he was mentally unstable? Like, who do you think should have been, responsible for the fact that Adam got these guns? Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below in the comments section. I am really sorry about the whole, me messing up on words. It's late here. I'm kind of tired. I've had a long day of cleaning. So I hope to see you guys in my next video that I will be posting on Friday. So see you guys later. Bye.